Next up is Tonya Eliason. Tonya has been here 8 years now.
Since 2008.
Yeah, so Tonya started as a rookie real estate agent with no experience. Tonya is now the #1 broker for all of North Bend and Snoqualmie Valley and has been for years. So Tonya does incredible business, very detailed. If you need to know anything from if it's on the river or on the mountain or where the view is, Tonya
or
has
floodplain.
Tanya's been
septic
there.
issues.
Yeah, septic issues.
Well problems.
This is who you call. So when you call me and I don't know, this is who I call. So Tonya, if you want to tell them everything that you do.
Hey, well, as mentioned, I was a brand new agent in 2008. I joined the Cascade Team, so probably like a few. I had no clients and no idea where to begin. I did a whole variety of marketing. I will say, in a small town, focusing more on, I do a lot of acreage properties, and it's a little different marketing plan. Can't do really the farm neighborhoods, and door-to-door isn't an option when your houses are, acres apart.
Yes.
I tried a lot of different things, but I would say at this point my business is probably at least 90% referrals from business people I know, work with, have known for the 18 years that I've lived in my current home. And probably the majority of it is my clients and all the people in my community. I've obviously done a lot of community events, not just the Cascade Team ones, but I've been trying to be a big part of my community for many years now I do dog rescue. That's always been a big part of my life. I've done most of the local neighborhood, I do the festival at Mount Si and the block parties, and I tend to realize that I'm not the best at pushing myself and selling myself in that way. It's just not really my personality, so I tend to try to have things that I know people would like to have. Like when I first started, I did a lot of open houses for other clients, or for other agents in homes in the area that I wanted to know. I would go and visit every single home on the market so that I could answer any question anyone had about any of them, and then I would make sure, and I still do to this day at every open house I hold, I have all of this information available for them to take in packets with my name and my information right on the front of it. I do find almost everyone takes an open house pack. If they want to know, even if they don't want to take my information or leave theirs, they will usually always take my map with all of the details about every house that's being held open in that area that day. And in a lot of those cases, they call me back. I also found, strangely enough, great responses to my local phone book ad. Nobody looks in the yellow pages anymore, but I found my little local phone book in North Bend. I used it to see who was local. Not to get their phone numbers, just to see who really works in this community. Because I like to support local businesses and went, hey, maybe other people do this too. I found pretty good responses to that. My little local paper, I also run ads in there. I've done business write-ups. I help supply them with information. So hopefully when they're trying to find out about our real estate market, they'll call and ask me. The blog posts, I am not good about doing a blog, but I am pretty good about being a member of a lot of my local Facebook groups and helping to comment, especially the referral networks. When people are wondering, help, I need to get my septic pumped, who do I call? I've always got all that information. I keep it all on my website, and I keep full files of all of it. So I can give them 8 names and their approximate prices and who to call to get their elevation certificates done. And I try to help a lot in that way. So I've kind of always done a wide variety of marketing plans. I've also done some direct mailers. I personally haven't gotten a ton of calls from them, but what it does do is it gets my name out there. And then everybody I run into in the grocery store is like, hey, you're that real estate lady. And that's what I look for. I go to the QFC, I go to the Ace Hardware. I have flyers hanging in those. I probably get more responses from a flyer hanging in my local store than I do from any of my other marketing, which is strange. But that's also where you have to know your market and kind of adjust accordingly.
Very good. So it's a good points by Tonya. You know your market, and every market is not the same. They're not all master plan communities, and Tonya does from our crayon drive that we do every year, and then we do the North End block party. This year we did the North End tree lighting, even though the wind kind of shut us down on that. And then Tonya does other community events, but you're right, from the newspaper she does, to the local yellow pages, to being involved with
door mailers, flyers in town.
Yep, it's.
And then I also advertise on the web, like
Right,
Zillow and in a lot of those places. However, again, it's mostly just to keep my name out there.
Consistent marketing. A good point that Tonya brought up with, reaching out to your referral boards. It's like whether there's something called next door, so there's next door Trostlakes, there's a next, we see heads nodding, there's a next door Snoqualmie Ridge, there's a next door Redmond Ridge. Those are great places because people are all the time asking, does anybody have a roofer? Does anybody have a plumber? Does anybody have a landscaper? On our Home Pro network, where as you have good contractors, please add them to that, because one, they're great for other agents to use, but when somebody asks, you can take the link from that and put it right on there, and that's just a link back to you and for people, and then you become a resource. And like, wow, the real estate agent knows what to do, so that's a great example.
And I tend not to push, I'm a real estate agent.
Right, yeah.
But as they've seen my name a lot around, I also count on the fact that a lot of them already know what I'm a real estate agent.
It's
We're
kind
a
of a-
fairly small town. They see my signs all over.
It's a soft push.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Tonya?
I do. Since you've built up this, great resource of referrals from your past clients, how are you maintaining that? How are you keeping in touch with your past clients?
I don't tend to do a lot of drip marketing. I should probably do a lot more of it. I will say that it's fairly time intensive because I tend to try to just make a point of, on a lot of the holidays, I actually send everyone a personal email.
Oh, cool.
I keep a whole list of everybody that I've worked with and that I've actually done something with. And, every Christmas, of course, they get a card a lot of times, but I don't mass mail it. It does take a lot of days every time I do them because I want to send a personal note to each of them. I mean, I'm copying and pasting a lot of the basics, but I'm making sure that everyone is personalized and, asking about their kids or their pet, and people that are dog lovers, telling them about my new puppy, or, whatever the situation is. So I tend to do it a little bit different. And a lot of them, it's a little different just because I see so many of them all the time on a regular basis in our local stores, and a member of a lot of the different groups and like the Lions Club and all these different things. So I see a lot of my clients all the time. So it's a little bit different in that way. Those that have moved away, I try to make a point of emailing and calling a little bit more often, especially those that are out of state now. I know I won't see.
Anything else? All right, Leanna, you were up. Thank you, Tonya. And Leanna has also been here since 2008, is that right? All right, Leanna?
I don't remember.
Well, we'll go with 2008. She doesn't fall asleep at everything like we do. But Leanna's been great. So Leanna came from John L. Scott. She's done a great business. She does a big mix, from Falls City and Snoqualmie to Snoqualmie Ridge and whatnot. And again, like I say, she paid in 5 weeks this year. So it's not too dead, and I don't think she's ever missed a year of paying in. So she'll be at the 95.5 for a good 11 months and have a great year. So how did you do that, Tonya? Or Tonya?
Well, maybe my name.
Oh, Leanna.
I'm not sure how Tonya is. It seems like she's got a great game plan too.
Cut. Edit in the right name.
So kind of like Tonya, I've been doing this almost 10 years, and so I kind of have different cookie jars, I guess, if you will. And the marketing is great, and I really would do what Carrie's saying, take advantage of the marketing that the company's doing with the, Project Crayon Drive and the open house or the, treasure hunt and things like that, and really try to utilize that to promote your business, because it's really just a really good way to get your name out there, especially, if people are a little bit newer, and it gives you some face time with people. A huge thing for me, like Tonya, has been referrals. I would say I do a ton of my business from referrals, and kind of to share a question, something I do is, so Christmas, I do like a handwritten card, and if people have referred me business over that past year, I'll send them, usually some sort of a gift card, just as a thank you, just to kind of stand out, like, hey, I really do appreciate you thinking of me. And I always will follow up as soon as I get a referral with either a phone call or an email to thank that person for thinking of me, and just let them know how much I really do appreciate it. And that's really the backbone of my business. So that's really important. Open houses, I need to be better at, and blogging, I need to be better at, but something I, plan and hope for in 2016. But, that's the marketing, being really great to your clients,
Some consistent things you see with all the top performers there. Any questions for Leanna specifically?
So Leanna, when you're, I don't know if you budget out a year or think about costs for marketing, if you were to do that, what's your budget that you look at to do monthly or for the course of the year?
So I used to do Zillow, and it was about, I don't know, it was a couple years ago. So I think I was paying like $350, and I was doing 9029. So, Highlands, Klahani, that area. And then one year they called and they were like, we're gonna now be charging you $900 a month. So I went back and I looked at the numbers and I was like, this just clearly doesn't make any sense. So I actually gave that up. And then I spent more money in terms of doing the mailers, and I did a couple of those questions mailers last year to kind of piggyback on some of our events and things like that. But I think you have to look at what you did for the year and take a percentage of what you're willing to reinvest into your business. So I did have a really great year last year, so I plan to probably do a little bit more in terms of marketing this year, which is still kind of to be determined as to what else I will do besides
And you follow that business plan, which is great. You plan for your success.
I mean, and that's really what I was calling Gary in December because I have a girlfriend of mine who works at Windermere, and we kind of bounce things off of each other. And she was like, "Oh yeah, business plan." And she's like, "I print off all of what I did last year, divide out what my median home price is, and And I was like, "That's a great idea because I'm betting you that my price is a lot higher than it was in 2014. So I just kind of want to be able to track and see, and measure those goals. Like, what is my goal? If I want to do, this many transactions, how many does that really mean for January, February, March?
Right.
And to be able to really track the progress.
Very good. More? Diego, you ready? Thank you. Leanna. Last but not least, Diego, and as I mentioned, I've known Diego forever. So I've known Diego. He was a title rep when I was at John L. Scott. Then he was a lender, and I remember doing an open house where I was sitting in the open house and he was the lender. We had one person come through and we sold the house and he got the loan. So very good. Now he's been here since 2007. So 9 years for Diego, who's having a phenomenal year here.
I guess for me, my story, I like to think is a little bit unique because real estate's a tough industry, and when you get into it, there's a grandiose kind of feel to what you can do and what you can become and all this kind of stuff. And if you're new, you can get into a whirlwind of what to do and how to settle yourself down. And I'm a classic example of that. Like Carrie said, I started off in title and escrow. I went to loan origination, I went to loan wholesaling, and then I eventually got my license. And the reason I got my license was because I had investment properties and I wanted to be more into that line back in the 2006-07 era. And so, I got my license for that, and then I got laid off from a very good wholesale job. And at that time I went back to Carrie and said, "What am I gonna do here? This is crazy." He says, "The market's still good," and I don't think we all had a good grip of what the market was going to do. But I came on full time at that time, and we did some really good business, or I did at that time, sustainable. But then life happens, and I'm always very honest with people I talk about. It was a period of time where I went through a divorce. I had 2 young kids, and real estate wasn't a good fit for me at that time. And it was tough because I have a passion for it, really enjoy it. But I had to take a step back and say, I need to take care of myself, I need to take care of the family. I went back and did full-time work, sold wine and spirits, which was actually a really fun endeavor that I got to do.
I'm a big fan. Wine and spirits right here.
Something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I know how to order a bottle of wine wherever I go, or a bottle of spirit or whatever, but it just helped get through that. So coming into last year, Carrie and I have always talked, and I've been a part of the company in some fashion. I did a lot of property management during that downtime as well, and that was another niche that I have in my back pocket. But I've always kept in touch with Carrie, and just, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? And last year was the year we need to make a decision how we're gonna move forward. Things are starting to thaw out with the economy, and the business here has been great. I've always had a good pulse of what the Cascade Team is about and what they're doing. So I said, I want to do this, and what are we gonna do? And so we came together and put a plan together, and for me, my my big transition is into the management side of things. I'm coming on to open the Redmond branch, which we opened last May 1st, and we've just been trying to slowly but surely get that going. And when you're in a market where nobody really knows you, and Redmond is just an untapped market for us. The Cascade Team has had presence, minor presence, but relatively speaking, we're not there. So we're building this from the ground up. I've got 7 agents out of their office now. I've got Matt and Julie and Amy here, and they're here today. And my focus is to help them build that market, and I partner with Matt and Peter, who's also not here, but to help market on that. So we're sharing resources to build out and get as much exposure to those places as much as possible. I've got people like Amy, and I just want to speak about Amy because you talk about an ideal newcomer to the industry. Amy has a connection with me too. She's a mortgage broker from her past, and I think it's just a great connection. But she's come in and she has done everything we've asked her to do in terms of following the marketing program, getting on the blogs, getting on the social media, putting herself in the community. I mean, she's doing it to a T, and the results initially, you kind of get worried because you don't know what's going to happen. But sure enough, her last mail that she put out there, you've gotten what, 4 leads out of them?
2 so far.
Two out of those?
Within the first week.
Within the first week of a new mailer going out. So, and she's going into an area that I'm talking about untapped. There's nobody from the Cascade Team has ever been out there.
Yeah, Snohomish County, so
Snohomish,
we're way up north there, yeah.
She's way up north in Snohomish, but she's doing what she needs to do to get that presence, and she's really starting to become a part of it. She's got niche things like she's a pilot, so she talks about, has a talking point, whether it's piloting or dogs or pets, whatever it is. She's got something there. So for me, my goal this year is to build up our office. We've come out of it with, we had 8, we lost 1, but the goal is to get to 35 agents by the end of this year, and we're really going to kind of focus on that. And if anybody in the company, whatever branches you're at, if you have questions or need some answers, feel free to reach out to me. It's my passion is to help people kind of get an understanding and realize the assets that you have that can come into play when you are working with clients and things like that.
Great. Questions?